3, 2, 1, action!
Our next project is going to be a costume based off of the Teacup ride at Disneyland. We're going to make it out of EPA foam. I'm going to show you the whole process from design, kind of concept design, all the way through fabrication and paint. So let's go get started. Okay, so I have my initial Photoshop drawing that I did. I kind of took the pictures from the Teacup ride in Disneyland and scaled it onto our friend Lacey. And then I took that and brought it into 3D in SketchUp. Tried to get the curves, but also had to kind of make sure I had room for her legs and be able to move and stuff in that. So I had to kind of scale as best I could. I traced the handle from the actual picture and put on here, and I think it's a pretty close match. So I had to break it apart into small enough pieces that it would be able to fit onto our material that we have. So I had to do some complicated problems here. So I figured out that with the circumference, I had to basically break it up into 6 panels. So I kind of took these planes and sliced it until I got kind of a single piece here. This is what 1/6 of the main teacup will look like. My program does have a extension to kind of flatten it, but because of the really complex shape, it gave me kind of a crazy thing here that doesn't fully line up, and it's got gaps and spaces in between everything. So I had to do some separate math to figure out what I think might be the shape as a flattened piece that I could cut out of the foam. I'm gonna see if the laser will cut it straight through. If not, I will at least use the laser to etch the shape, and then I'll cut it with a knife. So I'm going to do a small scale mock-up of this first. So I took these parts and pieces, including the handle, and I exported it from SketchUp, brought it into Illustrator, and I'm going to do a small scale test on some similar foam. It's not quite to scale, but it'll be a good enough mock-up to make sure that the shape will turn out once I kind of glue it together. So I think it's 0.15% scale or something like that. So it's a pretty small scale. We're just going to do on these little thin sheets of foam, which are going to be kind of similar material to what we're using full scale. And we're going to cut 2 of these and get our 6 pieces, and then try to glue it together and see if it looks like a teacup. For my mock-up, I'm also going to do a little test with a heat gun to see if I could get it to kind of hold a curve. This is similar material to heat it up. And then you can kind of put a curve into it just by hand. You can see the difference. It's kind of potato chipped. It's holding pretty good. So I'm going to do that to the other pieces, and then glue half of it, and then cut my other pieces and see if it works. So I have my 3 pieces. I gave them a little bit of curve to them. Now I'm going to start trying to hot glue these together. It's really thin material, so I might have to kind of just work it a little bit at a time. This is just a mock-up, just a test, so. So generally it looks like the half of a teacup. I'm going to cut the other 3 pieces and put it all together, see if it all works out. Okay, you got to be really careful with heat guns. They get really hot. If you don't have a heat gun, you can probably use a hair dryer, probably similar kind of thing. And then I'm using this bottle that has kind of a similar shape to give it a little bit of shape, a little bit of consistent curvature to it. And then just kind of working it over there until it cools down a little bit, and then hold the shape. Heat gun also helps kind of close up some of the kind of open cells that are in the foam, so it might make it a little smoother finish and easier for paint to be applied. I also scaled the handle, so I'm going to do this with a couple maybe 3 layers of this foam. I'm just gonna hot glue it for now. So I also, in my scale test, I also made the bottom plate that it sits on in a couple different parts. I think ultimately both the wider flange and the smaller flange will have to be 2 separate parts. So I'll have to do it kind of like this, where it's kind of 2 separate pieces. Then I'll glue it together, but I'll offset the seams so it all holds together nice. So I'm gonna try to glue those. Alright, so I'm gonna glue around the perimeter here and stick it on there. We're gonna glue this handle on, and then our mock-up will be complete. I think I might put it on a seam here. It's not perfectly to scale, but it's pretty close for what we are going for. So we finished our little mock-up model. This is just with thinner foam, and we laser cut this. So I'm basically going to scale up these shapes and cut them full size with some larger, thicker foam. So we have this, it's called HD foam. It's from SKS Props. We bought ours at Blick Art Supply, and we bought 2 different thicknesses. So we have 6mm thickness that we're going to use for our kind of main sides of the cup part, and then we have the 10mm, which we're going to use for the plate down below, and probably some reinforcing kind of bands and stuff around the perimeter. So, all right, let's get this to the laser and start cutting. So we took our foam and we laid it out, so got packaged, curled up, so we wanted to get the curls out, so we laid it out. It's nice and warm out here, so it's been laying pretty flat so far. We are going to cut it down into sections small enough that I can fit into our laser engraver, laser cutter. You don't have to use a laser engraver. This stuff is totally good to cut with a knife, an X-Acto knife, or a box cutter. So I'm going to cut it down just by hand to get it to fit. But you could always make templates or draw out your designs and cut based off of that. I know online there's a lot of people that have kind of templates for all sorts of stuff that you can make with foam. But this one we're kind of creating from scratch, so let's get this cut down to our good size. It's good when you're cutting anything to do a couple passes. Don't try to force your knife in all the way the first time. Nice light score on the top. Then cut a little deeper, a little deeper. I've got a nice fresh blade on here too. Makes a nice clean cut. I got all my files set up already, so I'm going to take this and put in the laser engraver, and we're going to start cutting the pieces. So our first pass engraved, we scored the hearts so I could hand paint that in there, and then we cut the parts and pieces out. So I just have to do this 2 more sheets like this to get all 6 parts to go around there. Then I have a separate file for the base, which is going to be in kind of 2 halves, and then a separate file for the handles. So we'd never cut this foam before, so I did some settings over here to try to figure out which were the right settings to get it to cut and to score. And then so if you get the right settings, it'll just pop right out and have nice clean edges. Should be good for gluing together the first 2 pieces. I got another piece of foam here. I'm going to use this one to cut long strips out of it so that I can use that as the colorful bands along the top of the teacup. So I can just kind of paint those individually and then apply them to the overall teacup. Big straight edge I have and my X-Acto blade, and cut 1.25 inch strips. Alright, so I'm using my X-Acto blade and a straight edge. I'm just cutting it. I'm doing kind of a first pass just real light. Then coming through for a second pass. Okay, so I'm cutting these bands so that I can use them as the colorful strips around the outside perimeter, but I might use a couple of them also to line the inside to help give the circular structure a little more rigidity. There we go. So first strip. So I'm going to have to cut multiple of these to make it all the way around the circumference of the top of the teacup. But then I should be able to glue them together kind of end to end and hopefully make those seams go away with a little bit of sanding and paint. So we got all 6 of our cup pieces cut and engraved and out on the table. So now we have the thicker 10mm foam, which we're going to use for the saucer and the handle for the side. So the handle is going to be four pieces stacked together that are each 10mm. So we got 40mm worth of handle thickness, and then the saucer itself has kind of 2 layers. Has the outer layer, then an under layer that's going to form kind of that bottom lip. So as to the test, we're good with the settings now, and now we should be able to just let it run. So we have all our parts and pieces cut and off the laser. We have the bottom dish with its little thing. This is actually upside down right now. It has the cuts. We're going to offset the cuts so they could help join themselves together. We've got the primer we're going to paint everything with before we assemble. Well, after it's partially assembled, we're going to do that. These are the 4 pieces that will make up the handle once we glue those all together. And then we have 3 panels that don't have the heart and the 3 panels that do have the heart. So we're going to do kind of every other panel with a heart on it. And then we got the spray paint here, the different colors, and we're going to try to match it and get as close to the ride vehicle as we can. Let's start gluing. I'm going to use my Barge All Purpose Cement. It's like a rubber cement to start gluing my pieces together for the plate, the saucer that it goes on. So I already got these ones started. They're on a timer. I'm going to work on the big guys here. So once you put the glue on, you have 15 minutes you got to wait before you actually join them together. They almost feel dry, but as soon as you put them together, it's some sort of chemical reaction or whatever that makes it glue nice and tight. My test piece, I tried to rip it apart and it is not coming apart. This glue also keeps things nice and flexible, so it won't crack or break. It stays flexible like the foam does. I'm actually told this is what they use for fixing shoes and stuff like that. So it's for rubber and foam and those kind of materials that shoes are a lot of times made out of. These are of course the handle. 4 pieces seems pretty thick for a cup that big. I'm gonna glue just kind of 3 pieces to start with, and let's go from there. Especially gonna try to get the glue all the way to the edges. I think if you have at least the edges and corners pretty well covered, it's probably not gonna come apart. There we go, 1 ring. There we go. First 2 rings set. So I'm going to take where the cut line is and kind of overlap it in different directions so that this ring will help support the ring above, and it will be help make it a little more sturdy. So on this I need to glue the whole surface except for about half an inch from the end or so. So there's my timer to glue these first pieces of the handle together. So already just gluing these two pieces together made it a lot stiffer. Just if you compare, like once I add this third one, I think it'll make it super strong. So I'm gonna get glue going on this one next. So I've heat formed all of my panels. I've got a little bit of curve to them now naturally. So I'm gonna start the gluing process and see if I can get some of these to glue together and start making the shape. All right, there's the first piece. All right, I think I'm gonna chance it and keep going around the circle. So this is a heart one, non-heart one, and I got another heart one. I'm gonna keep going around. The timer went off, so these first two pieces are ready to get glued together. So I can see these compound shapes are really hard to kind of get the pieces together. I'm gonna keep going, see what I can do. I'm probably gonna have to reinforce the back of these, maybe with some, either little strips that go across the grain, or maybe even strips that go along that to help support those and hold those from separating. There we go. We got three sections here. Do another set of 3 panels like this, and then I'll glue the 2 big sections together. There we go. Got the second half done. All right. 2 more pieces of glue, and I'm ready to go. We're gonna stick these pieces together. There's glue on that side, and same on the side. Don't touch those sides. But it's a 2-person operation. It's just getting too big and unwieldy, so we don't want to let this one to touch that one. So come up here. Teacup. So that's it for tonight. We're gonna call it a day. We've got all the parts laser cut and assembled, and we got the heart shapes kind of etched into there. Tomorrow it's gonna be all about trying to kind of form it and reinforce it, add a little structure to it, glue it together, get some primer on it, and then start the painting process. I have the parts and pieces, the main cup part, and then the saucer is a separate piece. This main cup part is pretty wobbly, so I'm going to reinforce. I cut some 4-inch strips of the same stuff, and I'm gonna line it on the inside of here. And hopefully that with the glue and maybe a little heat gun action to get it to kind of set should help to kind of reinforce and stabilize this a little bit. So I have some 4-inch strips for the top. I have some 3-inch strips for the middle. And then I'm gonna see how that works. There we go. So once I glue that together, cutting it at an angle gives it a lot more gluing surface, and it helps kind of spread that tweaking load. So I'm going to do that kind of centered in between the 2 of the seams of the panel. So this cut part will be on the flat part of the panel. So for this barge glue, you have to put the glue on both sides that you're gluing together. So you put it on the one side of the foam here, and then I have to put it on the inside of the teacup part there, and then wait 15 minutes. I set up a timer, and then you put it together. It's actually kind of almost feels dry to the touch, and then we put it together. They just stick like crazy. So I'm gonna mark which side needs the glue. I put a G on here for glue, and then I marked with marker on the inside here with kind of my angle and a couple spots along here, so I know to only glue kind of 4 inches down. I'm gonna leave the last 8 inches or 10 inches or so loose and not glue down until I get around there so I can glue this together. To help hold this thing up, I'm gonna run a little ratchet strap through here. I'm gonna take one of these offcuts, cut a little strip off of here to help me spread glue around. I'm gonna cut a couple just in case. All right, I'm gonna start with the teacup side because that's a little trickier to do. So just kind of squirt some on here, spread it around. I'm gonna get a bunch of extra glue around the seams because that's kind of the part I want really reinforced. Glue's drying on that one. This is the side I marked, G. I'll glue that side. So for the 3-inch one, it's a little more of a drastic curve at that point. So I'm gonna see if I could start to heat this up and start to give it a little curl bend to it. I'm gonna kind of stretch one side of it. There we go, it's starting to give a little curl. It's actually really hot out here, so I'm just gonna lay this in my driveway for a little bit and see if I can get it to heat up enough. It's been 15 minutes, so that means our glue is tacky and ready to go. I'm gonna hit this with a heat gun, I think, real quick, just to give it a little bit of flexibility. Just gotta be careful not to let it stick to itself until I've placed it and it's good and in the right spot. It's already holding shape much better with the added foam. So I'm gonna go and do the second half here. I'm working on gluing some reinforcements into the teacup. I already have a 4-inch band on the top of the lip. I'm doing a 3-inch band in the middle here to help kind of span those seams. It'll help tie the individual panels together, keep them from separating, and also help hopefully keep a little better shape. For the inner bands, because of the concave shape of it, I actually had to curve this a little bit. So I heated up with a heat gun and actually laid some of it just out on the hot driveway there, and then kind of stretched one side of it, just kind of went along and kind of pulled it so it is a little longer on one side than the other, so it has a little kind of smiley face curve to it. And that should help to keep it along the shape here. So I got this glued up. Glue's ready to dry, or ready to assemble. So I'm gonna spin this guy around. And I'm kind of starting it halfway in the middle of a panel. And I also did that with the other one too, so I'm gonna offset the brakes from the 4-inch one to the 3-inch one onto separate panels. And hopefully all that will help to get it together here. Already marked which way is up and which side my glue side is, just to not get confused for the shape of it. And start gluing. So this is my last piece of kind of reinforcing for the inside of the teacup. So I got it this side glued and the inside glued. And then I'm just gonna have to be careful to put this together in a way that it the glue doesn't touch each other until I need it to. So this is the bottom ring of the teacup. This is the plate that it sits on. So we are going to take some 1-2-3 primer and roll it on there. I got this sponge roller here, and I'm going to paint this separate from the cup part, just to avoid having to try to get in there with that little seam that kind of forms in the corner here. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that other separate, and then I'm going to glue them together. The cup sets down into this little groove here, and we're hoping that'll be good enough to hold it all together, but we have some options for some reinforcing, so we're going to do that afterwards. But let me get this painted so that we can get some final paint on it afterwards. We have spray paint to go on here afterwards. Alright, so I'm going to let that primer dry for a little bit and see if I can find some other pieces I can paint. I used a benchtop belt sander to help kind of soften out the edges, and especially the kind of the three different surfaces. Now they're pretty much one surface. There's a couple little spots here and there, so that kind of evened out. And I also kind of chamfered the corners a little bit with the sander, just so it has kind of not as pointy sharp edges. So. Alright, now I'm going to get some primer on the handle that goes on the side of the teacup. So on all these things, I'm going to specifically not paint the surfaces that still need to be glued. I think the glue will hold much better foam to foam than foam to painted foam. So I'm going to try to keep those clear as much as I can. Alright, so I'm cutting the 1.25 wide strips that will become the different color rings that go around the perimeter of the top of the teacup. So I'm just marking it out 1.25 inches. I'm just using my knife so I don't transfer any pen marks or anything onto here. So I could take these bands and just paint them the single color they need to be. I think one's gold and one's kind of a dark pink. And then I can just glue them to the outside of the cup. That'll help hide some seams and also just make it easier to paint them separately without having to do a bunch of masking tape or something. Another must-have for painting projects is chip brushes. They're basically disposable throwaway trash brushes. I buy them in the box. You get like a box of 50 of them or something, pretty easy. Amazon or even Home Depot, Harbor Freight Tools, all that kind of stuff. And that's good for getting in these little corners and stuff like that. If it's not something too detailed. This is just the underside, so it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to waste get my good paintbrushes out, because then I'll have to clean them afterwards. So this one, I can just paint it in there, then throw it away afterwards. Okay, so my pieces here have all been primered, so now I'm going to add the final color of paint. We got this kind of dark pink, gloss berry pink is what we're going for. This is Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch Ultra Cover Paint and Primer. Got the handle already painted here. Now these are the bands that are going to go around the top perimeter of the cup. Alright, for the plate on the bottom, I'm using this light pink. This is candy pink gloss. For the heart designs on the side, we decided to cut it out as separate pieces, and we're going to paint them and glue them on. Alright, so I got the innermost hearts and the outermost hearts all get gold, along with these strips. I think these are the second kind of strip down from the top. To hold the costume up, we're going to give it kind of suspender sort of things on the inside there. So I laser cut these pieces, give them a little curve to them, and this is we're going to use some webbing to feed through there. And then I think we're going to sew it up a ways a bit so we could kind of buckle it together. But for this piece, I'm going to I kind of cut this triangle piece out of here. I made sure to round the corners. Harsh corners are more likely to tear, so this could actually hold quite a bit of weight. And just to be extra cautious, on the back side here, I have these little pieces of plastic that are left over. I'm going to glue those across here too, just to kind of give it a little more reinforcement. I'm just going to do that with hot glue gun. And I gave those a little bit of a curve to start with too. So this way, this face will be up against the rest of the costume. This will feed through here. That should make it pretty strong. And we'll put lots of glue along this whole part, but we're not going to glue this section here, so this could still get the webbing to slide through there. There we go. So now I'm going to paint the inside of the teacup, the white. I put some blue tape here where I have to glue on the strips that are going to be the supports for like how to hold it up with like a suspenders sort of thing. So I'm going to keep those taped off so I don't paint those, so I can have a nice foam to foam connection with the glue. So we have all the pieces, they're all painted. We have to do kind of the final gluing right now from we're going to glue the main cup part to the plate. So I got our barge cement. I'm going to kind of put it in this crease along the inside here. We're going to put the main teacup on top of that, and we're going to let that set, and then we're going to start adding all the parts and detail pieces to the side. And let me start gluing. I'll flip it upside down here. Alright, so now I gotta let both halves dry, and then for 15 minutes, and then I could assemble it together. I'm probably gonna hit it with a heat gun real quick too, just to make it a little malleable and get it to fit inside the crease there. Alright, so it's been 15 minutes. Our two pieces are ready to put together. I have to do this very carefully so that I don't accidentally let the pieces stick together before they're ready. Now that's kind of in the shape that I want it. Let's see if I can hit with the heat gun. It'll hopefully set a little better.
Then what we're going to do is here in this triangle shaped, we have 4 of these pieces. They're going to be glued offset of each other on either side of the teacup. So one on the front, one on the back. We're going to do that twice. So it'll be worn almost like suspenders, and we actually have this white webbing material. And we're going to also have that sewn with a buckle. So when we're done, there'll be one piece permanently attached to one side of the buckle and one side that is adjustable with this buckle. So we're going to have 2 straps, and one side of each strap will be adjustable so she can fix where it's going to sit on her. And I'm going to make those extra long since they are going to be adjustable. And then from there, we should be able to put that teacup right over our shoulders. We might even cross it across the back to help it stay up a little bit better, but we should be able to wear it. So I'm just going to kind of guesstimate this to be about a foot for the one that is not adjustable, because that one, it doesn't really matter where exactly the buckle sits, and then we'll make a much longer piece for the strap that will be adjustable. But I am going to have 2 matching sizes. And when I'm sewing, I like to have it on a zigzag stitch because I think that just holds a lot better with this webbing. And here we go. So there's one side. This is the side that's going to be attached to one of the pieces of foam. All 4 pieces of foam are the same. They're all bent the same. And the plastic piece goes on top to help hold up the weight. So what we're going to do is put the webbing through here. And on one side will be this buckle, and then on the other side we're going to sew the webbing directly onto the foam on this side. Now this will be glued to the inside of the teacup. And we're going to make a matching one that looks just like this. And now for the second half that's going to be adjustable, we're going to use a lot longer webbing for this one. Same goes for this. I'm just going to sew it directly onto this side. This will be attached directly to the teacup, so it'll just be permanently attached on this side, and then it'll be attached to a buckle on the far side. I'm going to do the buckle side first. For this one, it's a little bit different because we're actually not going to sew it together because we want it to be adjustable. So what we're going to do is sew it so that it can't pull back through the buckle it needs to adjust. So to do that, you just fold it once and then twice, and you're essentially purposely making it so it cannot fold back through its friend. You can move the buckle down a bit while you're sewing to make it easier to fit inside your sewing machine. Now we're going to test it and make sure that the buckle can't come off. Okay. The buckle cannot come off of that, but it can adjust to be bigger or smaller. You can also bring a safety pin with you so you can kind of pin it wherever you want this to sit so it's not annoying you.
All right, now that's assembled, we're going to try to get rid of some of these cracks by using some silicone caulking. This one is fast dry and flexible, crack resistant, paint in 20 minutes. So I'm going to see what I can do to get rid of some of these cracks, leave it a little flexible, and then see if we could give it a touch-up paint after that. Working in the cracks a little bit. Alright, so I'm using my gloss berry pink for this. There we go. Now I want to add that to that of a nice continuous color. Now we're come to one of the final steps. putting all the final detail stuff onto the teacup. I'm gonna use hot glue for this. It'll make it a little faster, and the barge cement stuff is more for kind of the structural stuff to make sure that it really sticks. For little lightweight hearts and stuff like that, I don't think I'm gonna have a problem with that. So we're gonna try it out and see how it looks, but I think we'll be fine with just hot glue for this. And then I'm also doing these colorful bands around the perimeter too. So I have two pieces. They're a little bit longer overall with the two pieces I need. So I'm gonna do one full piece, then I'm gonna do a partial piece in the back, and I'll cut it to fit. But I'm gonna try to do the nice, good stuff on the front as much as I can. I'm gonna start in the middle and kind of work my way to the sides. Probably also just gonna do kind of a little section at a time, so I could really work it in there, work it around the corner. Cool, looks good. So the dark pink is done. Now I have this gold band's gonna go down. I'm gonna use this piece that I cut off as kind of the spacer. And then I'll peel that away, and that'll be my equal line spacing there. The colorful bands around there, and I'm going to start working on the hearts. So I already scribed the lines into the piece when I laser cut it. So now all I got to do is put some glue and line it up and stick it on there. All right, so in the design it goes gold, then white. So I'm just going to leave the white as the background, and then dark pink, and then gold again. So I'm going to do the dark pink next. I'm going to pick the best looking one for the front. That's pretty good. Alright, that's starting to look like something. And then the gold. Right over top of that. Alright, looks pretty cool. Turn this guy around. One of the last things to do is attach the handle. Alright, so we made these little pieces to help support the whole structure, make it kind of almost like little backpack kind of straps. So I cut some foam on the laser with some little kind of triangular cutouts. I rounded the corners. Rounding corners are much less likely to tear. Just helps kind of spread the load a little better. Added a little piece of plastic that I had left over just for kind of extra support. We took some, I think it was 1-inch nylon webbing, and sewed a little loop around that. So that is sewed to that. That goes to a quick disconnect clip kind of thing, and then the other side is also does the same thing, same loop sewn on there. So we're gonna use the heavy duty barge cement to glue that to the inside rings here. And we're gonna hope that that all holds well enough to hold all the structure for this. Right now we're just kind of testing the fit of it. We're gonna set the glue, then it takes the 15 minutes for it to go from there. So, all right, you want to come out?
Yep.
So I'm marking on the inside here where to not do the glue. So I'm going to keep the glue away from this side here. Just going to glue it around in the bottom here. So I'm going to really make sure this whole surface is covered in this glue. This is what's holding up all the weight and all the structure, so I'm going to try to keep it as much glue as possible, tie it all together. So I'm getting lots of glue on all the surface here. And on these 4 points where the connections are going to be, I actually put blue tape on here to keep the paint from coming on there. So it's natural foam. So I want a foam to foam connection as much as I can. If you are trying to glue on top of paint, sometimes you can have issues where the glue only sticks to the paint. I already have my timer started, so I'm going to do it in the order that I started gluing it in, so they all can end up at the same time. Alright, it's been 15 minutes, so my glue is set to dry for the straps. So we're going to do kind of a cross strap. So this is the first one I did. We're going to go to the back left here. Same deal. Okay, so now front left. And back right. The last thing we need to do is I'm not crazy about the connection between the cup and the plate, so we're gonna add some little extra pieces of nylon straps. I'm just gonna hot glue it to the seams, so we get kind of both panels on the sides there, and then I'm gonna wrap it around underneath and glue it to the bottom side of the cup, the plate. And then that'll just give it a little extra, actually lines up pretty good right up to the bottom of that. A little extra support just so it can't separate. Start with gluing the bottom part on. I'm just going to use hot glue. It's just a little safety measure. There we go. So that really helps with the seams. It helps tie the plate to the cup. It actually goes all the way up and basically helps tie this middle band all the way down, so it should be able to help hold itself up now pretty easily. I think that barge glue has set pretty good. Let's give it a little test and see. So we tested the costume, and the one problem we saw was just because where the points are that it's attached to, it's wanting to kind of pull in and kind of create a kind of taco shape a little bit. So I ran out to the store and grabbed some aluminum flatbar, and I bent it into a circle just by hand. It's fairly flexible. There are machines that you could use to roll it into a perfect kind of circle, but for my purposes here, I think that's good enough for what it needs to be. So I'm going to use this and some double-sided tape to create a kind of more thicker structure to attach. Let's see. It's actually almost perfect size. Wow, look at that. So I'm going to paint this white before I put it in here, but once I stick this in here and maybe kind of shove it down a little bit, it should make that much more rigid and a little less floppy. So I'm gonna get some paint on this and test it out. I got my aluminum band here. It is inch and a half by 1/8 inch steel or 1/8 inch aluminum flat bar. It comes in 8-foot lengths. I got it from Lowe's. I gave it a quick coat of white paint just to match the rest of this. And I also got some heavy duty double-sided tape. So I'm gonna stick that to the outside of here. And then I'm gonna wait to peel it until I'm kind of ready to do each piece of this. So I'm gonna get some tape on here. That's the front. I'm gonna start in the back and then work my way around. I'm just gonna peel a little bit of the tape at a time. All right. That is keeping it much more circular. I think we'll do another test. Let's try it on and see. Okay, so that's the front that way. Yep.
I'm Teacup.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, that'll definitely hold shape. It's not too heavy, right?
No, it's not too heavy at all.
We don't need to make some little
No, I don't think
shoulder
so.
pad
It's really
things.
not that heavy. All right, we're done. Let's take a picture of it.
We're done. She said it.
Such a good sport. You are a teacup. Would you like to be a teacup a little bit lower, or are you happy with your teacup length?
You tell me.
I actually think you look pretty good right now.